and the clock has started. Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Discovery, roger, there,
Well, thank you, Andrew, and welcome to the October 17, 2018 edition of Space News. This is Peter Aylward, and I have Michael Abdullah here with me, and Angelo is out on assignment this week. How are you going, Mike?
Yeah, not too bad. How you going?
Great, thank you. We've got a lot of news again this week. We'll start off again in Australia. More news about the Australian Space Agency investing in Australia's satellite capability. The Australian Space Agency has signed a statement of strategic intent with SITAL Australia, a designer and manufacturer of satellites, thereby enhancing the competitiveness and capability of Australia's space industry. SITAL Australia is a subsidiary of the largest privately owned space company in Italy. The statement of strategic intent is confirmation of the company's support of Australia's capability for developing small satellites, as well as investment in operations, ground stations and R&D. SITAL Australia opened a new branch in Adelaide in June of 2018, becoming one of the leading local companies in the design and manufacture of satellites of up to 300 kilograms. Mike.
Okay, let's look at Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab has unveiled a new high-volume rocket production facility in New Zealand. Rocket Lab has expanded its global footprint with the unveiling of a new production facility that rethinks the way orbital rockets are built, according to its press release. The new rocket development and production facility in Auckland is designed for rapid mass production of the company's Electron rocket. Adding to Rocket Lab's existing production facility and headquarters in Huntington Beach, California, the new facility enables the company to build an Electron rocket every week. All Electron launches, including the upcoming It's Business Time launch in November, will be commanded from the new Mission Control Centre, also located at the Auckland facility. The Mission Control site will serve launches from Launch Complex 1 in Mahia, as well as Rocket Lab's US launch site, which is currently undergoing final selection. The new production facility will house more than 200 of Rocket Lab's growing team of 330 people. Rocket Lab is actively recruiting for an additional 180 roles across New Zealand and the United States to support monthly launches in 2019 and scaling up to weekly launches by the end of 2020. So it looks like it's time to get your job applications in.
That's it. I'm off to TAFE tomorrow to go and get my qualifications up and running.
Excellent.
All right. Andrew's already talked a fair bit about the Soyuz launch, the failure to get the guys into orbit. We're going to look at some of the ramifications, implications. So the emergency in-flight abort of the capsule may have been a success in that the astronauts and cosmonauts returned to the Earth safely, but the aftermath puts NASA and international partners in a precarious situation. The Space Agency must find a way to continue operations on the International Space Station without its usual equipment. The Soyuz is currently the only vehicle that can take humans to and from the ISS, and the rocket is now grounded from human spaceflight for the foreseeable future. That means NASA may not be able to send astronauts to the station for a while, which could eventually leave the ISS without a crew at all. Their Soyuz MS-09 has been docked to the ISS since June the 8th. However, Soyuz capsules are only meant to remain in orbit for around 200 days, so this vehicle will presumably need to come down by the end of December. That leaves NASA and Russia in a sticky situation. The station could be left without any people on board at all. It is possible that Russia could launch another empty Soyuz capsule to dock with the ISS, helping to extend the time of the current crew on board by another 200 days. Russia is already going through the motions to prepare a Soyuz vehicle and rocket combo for a planned launch of 3 crew members on December 20. That is still moving forward and could possibly fly. However, if that plan doesn't pan out, NASA says it is ready for the possibility of an empty space station. NASA will be looking at some of the robotic systems, pumps and other instruments to make sure that they can continue to manage the station from the ground in case there's no one around to take care of it in space. NASA has been working for years on new ways to get its astronauts to the ISS. Through the Space Agency's Commercial Crew Program, two private companies, SpaceX and Boeing, have been developing vehicles to transport astronauts to and from the ISS. Those vehicles are not ready to take up the mantle yet, though. The two companies are scheduled to conduct uncrewed test flights of their spacecraft starting early next year, during which their vehicles will launch and dock with the International Space Station without people on board. If those tests are successful, then the companies will perform the first flights of their vehicles with crew in the summer, the northern summer that is. But it's a requirement for NASA that the space station is crewed when those initial test flights occur. That means the first flights of the Commercial Crew Program could be delayed if the ISS is evacuated. Delays in the Commercial Crew Program would stretch the amount of time NASA remains reliant on the Soyuz vehicle. Currently, NASA pays more than $70 million for one seat on the Soyuz to get its astronauts to space. The Commercial Crew Program is meant to end that financial arrangement, allowing American astronauts to launch on American-made rockets again. But if the Soyuz is out of commission for long and the space station is to be decrewed, that means NASA won't be able to test out its vehicles in order to get off the Russian technology. Whoa, what a scrambled mess. The Soyuz failure could also affect the version of the rocket used by Arianespace for launching satellites. The launch provider said that it's assessing the links between the version of the Soyuz used in Thursday's failure and the one used by Arianespace for satellites. The company said preparations for its next Soyuz mission from French Guiana, scheduled for November 7, remain on track. That launch will place the MEOP-C weather satellite into orbit for EUMETSAT. The Soyuz failure also makes it unclear when the next Canadian astronaut will fly the ISS. David St. Jacques was scheduled to launch to the station in December on the next Soyuz flight, but that schedule is now in limbo as the failure is being investigated. He would be the first Canadian to go to the ISS since Chris Hadfield's mission ended in May of 2013. The Canadian Space Agency said that it was confident that St. Jacques would fly to the ISS soon, if not in December. The failure could also delay the launch of the first astronaut from the UAE, who was scheduled to go to the station in April 2019 and return with the crew of the Soyuz MS-10. Boy, that's pretty complicated, Mike. So what's happening over the US?
The US Air Force has awarded more than $2 billion to Blue Origin, Northrop Grumman and the United Launch Alliance for the development of next-generation launch vehicles. The three companies received launch service agreements that will support the work on Blue Origin's New Glenn, Northrop's Omega and ULA's Vulcan Centaur. ULA received the largest award at $967 million, with Northrop getting $792 million and Blue Origin $500 million. Notably absent from the awards was SpaceX, but neither the company nor the Air Force would say if SpaceX submitted a proposal and, if so, why it was not funded. SpaceX will still be eligible to compete for a second phase of the effort in 2019.
Maybe they had a contract for SpaceX, but then they saw Elon Musk on YouTube smoking whatever he was smoking.
That's right.
And put that into the bottom drawer.
And then they lost it.
There you go. All right, well, finally this week, astronomers have named 2 lunar craters after the Apollo 8 mission as its 50th anniversary approaches. A working group of the International Astronomical Union has named 2 craters visible in the famous Earthrise image of the Earth rising above the lunar surface, Anders Earthrise and 8 Homewood. Astronaut Bill Anders took the famous image during the December 1968 mission, the first time humans orbited the moon. Well, there we go. Busy space news this week. Thanks, Mike. Hope you get better soon, Angelo, and it's back to you, Andrew.